Are you one of the hundreds of thousands of treasure hunters out there looking to find millions of dollars? So are we. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jam, and we are Treasure Hunt with Us.
Today, we're going to continue to take a deep dive into the Pokemon book. We've been out boots on the ground, and what we recognize is the importance of really analyzing the words and getting the analysis on point because while we've been there to see where we believe it's at, we're still missing a little piece. And we understood in our mindset that that means we need to take another look at the words.
Yeah, and the words are really, really important in this chapter. It's the most words, it's the biggest chapters, and everything seems to have a double meaning or another thing it's talking about with these words. And so that's what we have to do is basically decipher what do these words actually mean.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of word salad going on here, right? So
It
so
is.
we're circling back and we're reversing and we're 5 years old and we're five and or we're five and half versus five and a half. You know, all
Listen
of
in
these little
there.
things. And so what we've determined is that we really need to understand and dig deep into what is important and what is stuff and really what is fluff. And so today we have a very special guest. She's actually one of the nation's leading expert in the analysis of fluff and stuff. We have Dr. Fluffington Steele. She is internationally known, and we're really excited to have her here with us. Dr. Fluffington Steele, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I was so sick of being part of a society where people were confusing fluff for stuff. So I created the Fluff Over Stuff Institute.
What an
Now people
amazing.
call me all of the time to evaluate whether their stuff is really fluff.
It's just such an important thing to have in this world. And so doctor, we don't want to keep you too long. We know that you're one of the most sought after people in the world. We're
I
going to go
bet.
through 5 pieces of this book that we've read in this chapter and determine what you really think about it. Jim and I've talked at length, and one of the first things we're going to talk about is in that very first chapter, in that first paragraph of that chapter, where he's talking about getting into the car with his parents and his grandparents, and he's using the hard case Samsonite luggage and using the Joyco pop-up camper, and then he says something that we think is a bit of a whoa. He talks about his father packing the car through the hatchback of their station wagon. But what we found in our research is that hatchbacks were not part of the station wagon until after 1980, right, Jam?
That's right, and this is to me clues that talk about things that are hard, solid, and stuff like that. And it to me probably references out something that has to do with the golem.
So, Doctor, in relation to the golem and the use of 3 separate hard substances, what do you think about this clue?
Hmm. I think this is stuff.
Now we know, Jam. Now we know.
It makes
Okay,
sense. It
it
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
The golem seems to be an important part. He's a round, circular golem with a hard exterior, and the fact that he has to talk about a hard cased Samsonite luggage just seems like a
Right.
weird comment to make if it isn't
For
stuff.
me, it's the hatchback. The fact that the hatchback was not part of a station wagon in the 70s, it
Yep,
was
it opened out.
still it was still a piece that would open backwards and out. The hatchback was introduced actually in 78. I want to say by Datsun or Nissan because remember they were the same company but not the
Yep.
same company yet in America. One of those, but it was not a station wagon. So we think that this wordplay is significant. Thank you, doctor, on that one. Here's our next clue. And we've been thinking about this because, again, John continues to be very intentional in his verbiage. And he talks about going to the pet store to purchase the jar of flies as snacks. And we just think this pet store is so elusive when in the area where we're searching, there's no you would be going towards the water, so it'd be more logical that you would get flies to fish with maybe from a general store than a pet store. And again, where we're looking, there are no pet stores. What do you think about this pet store ideology?
Hmm. The pet store. Meow. I think that is fluff.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I agree. I
And I think
agree.
that as much as it wants to lend like a hint, like it's going to talk about something that kind of drags you in. I think that it's overkill. And so that makes me feel red herring like.
Yeah, well, I think it also might be just trying, it's just in there as fluff to try to push you
Right.
towards what is probably the good stuff, what we're
Thank you,
thinking
doctor. We
about.
knew you'd know. Conversely, doctor, in that same section, it talks about John Coltrane and, in a reference that at first we thought was a little bit vague, but then we drew it into the circle of five,
Fifth,
which is
yeah.
a part of his musical process and what he utilized to teach other musicians. And we think, based on some other clues we've analyzed, that that circle of five and that Coltrane reference potentially could point us to the right spot. Doctor, what do you think about that?
Hmm. I think that is definitely stuff.
I love hearing it. I love hearing it. I knew, Jam. I knew that that was going to be stuff.
The Jar of Flies, the Circle of Fifth, John Coltrane, that is definitely stuff. I agree. Thank you for confirming that.
And JCB himself is a musician. So again, it all tends to circle all the way back, which he loves to
He
circle.
loves circling.
Okay, this one's a little bit different. We're going another direction because we actually are going to talk about the part where the Pokemon Go gets introduced. JCB makes such a big deal about Portland, Maine, and how he and his wife went to Portland, Maine, and
He
everybody was
mentions
just
it
standing
twice.
in the
It's like
streets.
Portland, why?
Portland, like, oh, Portland, Maine. Who cares, right? That's all
Is
I could
that
think.
something?
Doctor, is that something?
Hmm. Portland, Maine is absolutely beautiful in the spring, but I think this one's fluff.
Oh goodness. I knew it all along. It just
Yeah,
seemed too indicative of like a counter direction. Thank you,
yeah.
doctor. Thank you. Last question. In the book, there's just so much references that really almost draw us back to France. And Jam, and you and I have talked
Yes.
about this at length about how we fall into question about whether or not we're in the right place because there's so much French driven. The froki is a French derivative. There's, talking about sojourning, which is a French word. There's all the different reasons. We've had some
The
great
French
people,
quarters,
the French quarters
the
in New
Eiffel
Orleans.
Tower. He talks so much about
Right,
things that are in French or France or in Louisiana and
right.
stuff.
And so when he talked about the words, the great expanse, it really kind of drove home to us, Doctor, the motion of the great expansion, which is when Thomas Jefferson purchased the Louisiana Purchase, which ironically is a very small part of Louisiana, but encompasses the whole of Arkansas, which is where everybody knows we've been looking. Tell us this. Do you think that there's something to that being a really significant clue, Doctor?
Hmm. Oui. This one is stuff.
I knew it. Doctor,
I
your
knew it.
help has just been beyond valuable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, we appreciate you being a very special guest. Is there
You're the
anything we can
best.
do for you before you leave today?
Nope. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a
Okay.
great day.
That made perfect sense about the French stuff, about especially when he mentions about Kirk's wardrobe and Alice in the Looking Glass, both made by Lewis's, right, who wrote the book. And you talk about Lewis and Clark, who discovered, did a lot of this discovery for Louisiana and stuff. So there's definitely feels like there's something there. It makes
Right.
sense.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. So again, when we talk about the Great Expanse and the Louisiana Purchase, if you pull it up and you look at it online, and we really should have had a picture, and we're sorry we don't have a picture for you today. There's this little portion, the little tiny sliver of Louisiana and really New Orleans, probably because it was a port, is part of this Louisiana Purchase. But when you look at the grand nature of the actual purchase itself, it's massive. It goes all the way up into Canada, but it circles the entirety of Arkansas. So for us, that was another reinforcing factor that the whole state of Arkansas is in there. We may not be in the exact right spot, but we're not off track.
Yeah, and again, he says the great expanse. That's what he's
Right.
doing with these word plays, which clearly leads to the great expansion and stuff. Talking
Right.
about all these authors that are last named Lewis. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Other
it's
other clues, Jam, that I saw that I didn't think we really needed to verify because I just think that they're clues. For me, I know we've been talking a lot with other people about like what are we looking for? Is like we talked with Blake and everybody when we were on the panel last week, and K Pro and Mike and Coy about do we think it's in something? For me, that part where he says brim to the rim. I'm out there looking for a coffee can at this point. I mean, again, I'm a
I
70s
like your
baby,
ideas.
so I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think we're looking for those things. And so
Yeah. And
that
I
was a
think
good one.
where you could be possibly looking to, because he constantly talks about flipping over rocks as a kid and stuff.
Right.
There's a good chance that your can is hidden under a rock. So
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a green mossy rock. So
Right. Don't give too much clues away. And that, and then we talk all the time about like the wordplay with the Frokies. I mean, like there's something to this Pokemon part of it, right? Like that whole piece couldn't be a red herring, but we continue to try to tie it around it. And so even one of the clues where you talk about we discussed about whether or not 327 is an area code was a thing because he mentions seeing 3 raccoons, including 2 offspring, 7 feet in the air.
well,
Well,
what is that area code for?
that area code is for Arkansas. And people keep saying, wait, no, no, it can't be because he's been writing this book for 5 years. But even just as recently as today, when I was watching the Lotto video and John is on there, he said himself that he was changing clues up until right before the book released. So it's
And,
not
and
100%, but it's not
that got
bad.
changed in February of last year,
Yep.
2024. So
Right.
we were throwing that out as fluff, right? It's
Right.
not stuff because that wouldn't make sense except for then that video you saw.
Right.
He was
And the
changing.
327 on the Pokemon card is the Spinda.
Yeah,
And the Spinda only appears in 2 episodes as a oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, where they don't fight,
right. Non-battle.
non-fighting guy.
Yeah.
And so in the first one, he appears in Pokemon Square. He had a journey and he was there to help solve the mystery of the Mirage Pokemon.
He had
He's
to
on a
deliver
quest.
a clue.
He's delivering a clue. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a clue within a clue. More word salad, of course. However, it's trying to tell us something, and what is it trying to tell us, and how does it get us there, right?
Exactly right.
So stick with us. We're working through all the clues, and again, all clues are clues until somebody has something in your hand. But there's just some clues that have more value. In that same Lotto video today that I was watching, he says, there's some clues you can just ignore, and it's like, which ones?
Which
Which
ones?
clues?
There could be lion share clues in here that is distracting
Right.
you.
Well, and he
This
did
could
say
be.
something that a little bit different than the other times that at least for how I'd heard it,
Mhm.
at least things that he'd said that I'd heard. He said there's one clue for the lion's share in each of the 4 additional chapters, whereas I had been thinking
Thanks, buddy.
yeah,
Thanks for
which
making it
one?
harder. Which one?
Which
Now am I
one?
thinking I have a good clue? And really, you got me chasing, in Georgia or Ohio
Right.
for the lion's share. So
Right. Right. But
yeah,
then we talked about things that are clearly defined, and we think that he's trying to use certain words to just give you an idea
yeah,
and get you to a right location. Like when
yeah,
he says the Hemden Hollow, he says he lost his way, which brings you to the Lost Trail, which is right there, right?
yeah.
Um, he said clapped feverishly in response. It's impressive how well you do that. I mean, this area is known for thunder, and there's also the Thunder Valley.
Yeah, it's the Thunder Rock or something like
Yeah,
that
thunder.
trail.
Yeah,
And that one is the one that hit me for the longest time.
right,
Claps. What claps? What else is a clap? A thunder clap, and
right,
that's why it's so impressive, right?
right.
And I don't think anybody's really talking about that. That's another trail and probably a really good location for this treasure.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much here. When somebody said the other day, I want to believe it was in Discord, it was in the Kalazar Discord, where somebody said overexposed means highly visible. And it's like,
That
so
was really good.
where it's going to be this as a place that's really highly visible, where people are around all the time. It's just not highly visible from the perspective that John wasn't putting it out there for people to just trip over. So you've got to
Right.
get where you want to go and really dig in and search.
Yeah, look all around the outside of an area, which is why too, where people show up from time to time, it's highly visible. These are all really good clues saying that it's a big location. It's around it, just
Right.
outside of it. So
And then one of the last things I would say, because we get emails from time to time, and people ask us about it. As you're
which we
digging into,
appreciate.
we really do appreciate it. Uh,
Comments at treasurehuntwithus.com. I will put it on the screen right now. So
Fantastic. But as you send us things, it tells us what we need to talk about. And somebody really brought to my attention the need to really understand the word salad. double meanings of words, understanding what you're doing with it, and then really asking yourself, does this work? If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we had Detective Sniffs a lot on, and you got to ask yourself, does your words that you're really using to analyze, does it pass your sniff test? Because you can go down some deep holes, and you
Yeah.
can find validation in anything you do. And to the point that I will no longer. I used to think originally that we were 100% in the Buffalo National River area, and I'm not saying I've changed my mind. I'm just saying recently I've seen a few things that make me open to the idea that there's some other stuff out there. Do you want to know what those are, Jim?
What? Yes, of course.
So there's one real thing that just kept driving me nuts, and I'm like, why is this bothering me so much, right? And it's the pheromosa. The pheromosa. I'm like, is this a red herring? I mean, but it's the location, like the cicada. The cicada made sense, because it's
Makes
in there.
sense.
But the
All the other
pheromosa, which
ones
is a
make sense.
cockroach or a palmetto bug, really, it doesn't make sense.
It
So
does
now
not
that
make
I've
sense.
kind of expanded, like that's the one piece that's not fitting there. And again, it could very well be a word salad. It could be a red herring. But the reality is it could just as easily be trying to put us in a different place. So I'm kind of trying to keep my mind open and telling myself to really analyze what clues could be looking elsewhere. I actually live relatively close to an area with a pretty high volume of palmetto bugs. I'm within 100 miles of it, so it's something I can go search as much as I want without having to drive 13 hours like I do to Arkansas right now. So you might see another boots on the ground coming soon to a different park near you, or at least near me,
Hmm.
because that piece just doesn't fit right. And so now, if all the pieces don't fit, then isn't it obvious that we may not be in the right spot?
Or is that a lion's share? Or
It
you
could
don't
be a
need
lion
all
share.
the clues to find it, which is what
I
he
know,
said. So,
gosh, John, why are you making me think so hard? He said you don't have
and
to be a genius.
if you think that cockroach is the pointing saying, well, therefore it's not in that direction, well then why is Hemden Hollow and Lost Trail and Thunder Rock all these trails and everything pointing the thing about Buffalo? Why is that
That's the
all
best part
pointing
is I
us
don't think
to
that
the
it
Buffalo National
doesn't
River?
point there. I'm thinking that that's the one piece that I haven't figured out yet. And maybe it's the
Yeah.
most important piece. Maybe
Well,
there's like a cockroach rock or something that we haven't discovered yet, or cockroach landing, or cockroach outlook, or palmetto outlook, something like that. So it's about digging into that word salad a little bit further to try to find the things that take us to the spots we haven't been.
or that is needed for the Pokemon card number. And that is something we didn't dive into that we're still working on. We don't have a direct solve for that yet, so we
Right.
didn't want to talk about it that much, but we
Right.
are looking deep into these Pokemon numbers and what they could mean for this solve.
Right. And just so you know, just want to throw it back out there that, right, this is the book that I'm focusing on primarily, or the chapter that I'm focusing on primarily right now. I keep calling it book because I have it in so many formats. So I have all of my regular books, my first series, my second series, our third. And then we also have all of the ebooks. So it's like, is it a book? Is it a chapter? It is what it is. But this is where my primary focus is right now. But Jam is about to go boots on the ground next weekend, and
That's
he's
right.
looking at the past and the future book.
That
And
is right.
so, and we're going to come out this week with a video about the introduction. We had somebody reach out to us who talked to us about how they felt like they're so far behind. So maybe we thought maybe what we would do is do a little bit of an intro to kind of talk about how to leap in and kind of start to tear the chapter apart. So you'll
Yeah,
see that from us this week.
we get that a lot, right? Is we got the books late. We were late to this treasure hunt, and we were
Yeah,
trying to catch up. And a lot of people resonate with that, right? Because
right.
they also couldn't get the book. That's the hardest part of the treasure
The
hunt.
hardest part,
They
the treasure.
they
The
finally
treasure
are getting
really
their
is the
books.
book.
They feel behind. We're gonna try to help you guys get caught up. We're gonna get you started on that word search.
Right. We're going to do
We're
an
gonna
analysis of some stuff. It's going to be
yeah.
some stuff you've seen, and then it's going to be some other stuff you've seen, but it's really showing people what's been done so that they can catch up to where everybody else is as well.
Yeah, and we will probably dive deeper into the word search at a later episodes and stuff like that. But really,
Right.
we just want to get you introduced to it. We'll go through the cryptogram and
Right.
just the little parts of it, and then we have to go through reading through the chapter because the word nobody talks. Everybody talks about the word search. They don't talk about the actual words in the chapter, and words matter.
Words matter. Every clue's a clue until you have a box in your hand. So that's all for tonight. We didn't want to make this extremely long. We just wanted to talk through some of the clues that we thought might be red herrings. Obviously, we're very grateful for our special guest who shows up every time we need them, and we have
Yes,
many of them, and there's more to come. We are going to start adding a weather person in the next few episodes so that going out
I
on the
can't wait for
weekends,
the dinologist. That's going to be fun.
It's going to be good stuff. But thanks so much for sitting with us today. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or if you'd like us to dive into something deeper. And most importantly, like, subscribe, and follow.
Treasure hunt with us, we gon' light it up. There's treasure inside, yeah, we rising up. If you're gonna treasure hunt, why not treasure hunt with us? We the ones, we the truth.